start the meeting. So I believe General Manager has a statement before roll call, please.
Sure. Thank you, President Wong. Firstly, can everybody hear me? Please shake your heads. I can see some heads moving.
Yes.
Yep.
So my name is Robert Shaver. I'm the General Manager of the Alameda County Water District. Conducting virtual board meetings is still a new experience for our agency. So please bear with us if we experience any technical challenges this evening. If you're participating via Zoom, generally we ask that everybody, that includes panelists and participants, keep their microphones muted unless you're speaking. That greatly diminishes background noise and feedback and those kind of issues. So at times, the district secretary may place you on mute. She will unmute participants, members of the public, when the board is receiving public comments. You will be able to view the presentation materials as they're presented to the board. And at any time, you may submit a question or raise your hand if you are muted and have any questions or would like to address the board. I do not believe we have anybody participating by phone audio right now, so we don't have to cover that. The Zoom webinar will be recorded and will be made accessible to the public for future viewing. And the board has 3 closed session items this evening that will be covered near the end of the meeting. Members of the public may remain logged on to this Zoom webinar if they're interested in the board's reporting out of closed session. Regarding the closed session, for board members, we're going to try something new this evening. And what is going to happen is as we go into closed session, Gina will put us in breakout rooms, which are secure. So you don't have to do anything, directors, to get to the breakout room. Gina will do that. And then if for any reason you want to leave the breakout room, there is a button where you can do that, and that will place you back where we are now. So it's literally a virtual, like, little conference room that we'll be in, and then different members of staff will be present and general counsel for the closed session items as appropriate. So again, thank you for attending this evening. Are there any questions? Hearing none, I return it to you, Madam President.
Thank you. Then let's move on to roll call. Ms. Marcoux, roll call, please.
Directors Akbari,
Present.
Gunther,
Present.
Sethi,
Here.
Weed,
Here.
and Huang.
Here. Director Wee, would you lead us in a salute to the flag, please?
Yes, please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item is public comment. Members of the public may address the board on any issue not listed on the agenda which are within the purview of the Alameda County Water District. A 5-minute limit is customary. However, I may adjust the actual time allowed to accommodate the number of speakers. Members of the public who wish to address the board on a scheduled agenda item will be given the opportunity to do so. With that, do I have any member of the public that wish to address the board at this time? Ms. Marcoux, can you verify that we do not have any members of the public that wish to speak to us? No one raised their...
I do. I just unmuted myself. This is Miss Morgan.
Okay, Ms. Morgan, sorry.
It's okay. I'm still on no video.
Yeah, okay,
Is that okay?
of course.
And I don't recall seeing the agenda. I wanted to speak on the cattle ranch, the N3 cattle ranch purchase. Can I do that now? Or do I need to wait?
Yes, you may speak now. I believe we...
3.1.
Is it
On
on the
not.
agenda?
No.
It is a closed session item.
Right.
So I would say that if Ms. Morgan would like to speak on that item, that's fine. Otherwise, if that's the only thing that she's interested in, she would have to wait a few hours. And
Yeah, no. I'll just make some comments about it now. Mr. Shaver, is that all right?
Madam President, I think
Yes.
said that it's
Yes.
okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I have been following the purchase of this property out of Livermore. And I've shared some concerns with Director Sethi, and then Mr. Shavers has responded to some of my questions about making sure that this is not a transparent issue. I certainly understand that real estate negotiations need to be privately done. I certainly understand that. I have read, the only thing I've read about this purchase is that the purchase price has gone down from 72 million down to low 60s. So that's an interesting concept. My concern, of course, right now that we're in a budget shortfall everywhere across the state. Governor said $54 billion shortfall. You know, we all know how many unemployed people there are. We know that special districts are going to continue to raise their rates. My concern is at this time, wouldn't our reserves be better spent holding on to it for, let's hope we have some rain, a rainy day, rather than committing ourselves to this $60+ million purchase of this property? I'm sure it's a wonderful property and we need it. But I still don't read that anybody else, Sierra Club, Nature Conservancy, any other organization wants to participate in that. And I don't think that's a privacy issue. So I really don't want to spend this money on this project right now. I mean, what if the state wants us to spend it on something else to make up shortfalls? I don't know how this board is going to handle those concerns. So I would really speak loudly, if I could speak loudly, I suppose, to put this project on hold. Now, I know some of you are going to say that we need to get it done right away, but I think we need to think a little bit more before we do this project. That's pretty much all I wanted to say.
Thank you for your comment, Ms. Morgan. And I would just want to make a small advertisement for our workshop next Thursday. We will be talking about our financial planning. And I believe this definitely will have an impact to our fiscal planning. So you're definitely encouraged to join this next Thursday.
Is that going to be another Zoom meeting?
I believe so, yes.
Yes.
Okay. I used to get notices about those meetings, but I don't seem to be getting any right now. We're all busy with other things, so I guess it'll just be on the website.
So I believe we are still sending notices of special
Okay.
board meetings. We have not had a special board meeting in some
Okay.
time. Is that correct, District Secretary Gina?
That is correct. We have a program that whoever signed up for special meetings and events, they get a notification for all special board meetings.
So we have not issued that notification for next week yet, correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
Okay.
so if you do not receive a notification, Ms. Morgan, please feel free to reach out to you and we'll look into that matter.
Oh, you know I will.
Thank you.
And I would just add that as a workshop that will probably occur at 4 in the afternoon instead of 6 p.m.
That's fine.
Thank you very much, Ms. Morgan. Do we have any other members of the public that wish to address the board at this time? All right.
So just me, one more thing, just to clarify, I don't get a response from you all right now, correct?
That is correct, Ms.
You
Morgan.
can't, okay. All right, thanks.
Thank you very much. All right, so can I ask the district secretary to confirm that there are no other members of the public that wish to speak to the board? I don't see any, but
Okay, no, I'm not seeing any.
okay. Then with that, let's move on to the next item, which is item 4, consent calendar. Do I have any directors that wish to add items to the consent calendar?
Director Gunther, I'd like to add 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, and 5.5, and have 5.6. I have to recluse myself. We're being too close.
I have a comment on 5.4. I can make the comment before or just remove it from it, and I'll make the comment on 5.4 later.
Okay, then is there going to be an amended motion to add items? So I hear amended motion to add item 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, and 5.5 to the consent calendar.
I will.
Director Sethi will second that.
Somebody has to make that motion.
I'll motion.
I'll
All right.
second.
Okay, so for the record, Director Gunther made the motion to add item 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, and 5.5 to the consent calendar, and Director Sethi second. With that, Ms. Marcoux, roll call.
Directors Akbari,
Aye.
Gunther,
Aye.
Sethi,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
and Huang.
Aye. Do I have a motion to adopt the consent calendar as amended?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Directors Akbari,
Aye.
Gunther,
Aye.
Sethi,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
and Huang.
Aye. So next we move on to item 5.4, I believe.
Okay. I don't think we need to have a staff presentation on it. It's fairly straightforward on the proposals for grants and resolutions. The issue I wanted to bring up, let's follow on our last workshop. Grants cost, conservation costs this district a lot of money. We don't make money, we lose money because of our rate structure. And we'll lose $3 to $5 for every dollar we put into conservation. Now, here we're taking a grant, but it's going to cost our ratepayers a lot of money in the end. And I'll give you an example. AMI is assuming a 5% conservation savings. We have $20 million approximately in water supply costs, and we'll save under that analysis $1 million a year. But that $20 million in water is sold for $70 million under our current rate structure. And 5% off that is $3.5 million. We lose $2.5 million a year that have to be made up by the ratepayers when we do conservation-based financing. That is not a good idea. It was missed by, I think, by the board at the last workshop we had. And hopefully we can, one way to address it is to revisit the rate structure. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Director Weed. Do I have any other comments or questions from the directors? Do I have any questions or comments from members of the public on item 5.4? All right. Ms. Marcoux, can you verify?
I would move the staff recommendation on item 5.4.
I will second.
Director Huang, I don't see any members of the public wishing to make any comments at this time, so I'll take roll call. Directors Akbari,
Aye.
Gunther,
Aye.
Sethi,
Aye.
Reed,
Same.
and Huang.
Aye. So we're going to move on to item 5.5, but I believe somebody needs to recuse themselves. Director Gunther?
I believe that's 5.6.
5.6, sorry.
Have we moved the consent yet? Have we?
Yes, we did. We moved the consent calendar as is. Why?
As amended? Okay, I will be reclusing myself then from 5.6 due to the location of the project and my residence in Union City. I'll be thus leaving the meeting, waiting on my call for the return.
Okay, so Gina is going to put Director Gunther in quarantine.
Actually, Director Gunther has left the meeting.
Okay. So I guess we'll have to call
Has
Director
left the
Gunther.
building.
Okay.
Okay. For you other directors at this point, if you need to recuse yourself from an item, we have a new system where Gina can put you in a breakout.
Okay.
Okay. So would you like me to read 5.6, Madam President?
Yes, please.
So 5.6 involves the authorization of amendment to professional services agreement for engineering services for the Alvarado Niles Pipeline Seismic Improvement Project Phase 2. And this item was recommended for consent without taking into account Director Gunther's residence location. We're happy to cover it, but I just wanted to pause in case the board would just like to vote on it.
I think we could just vote on that. We heard about this project before.
Yes, you're very familiar with this
Right.
project.
So unless other directors have questions or comments at this point, do I hear any questions or comments from the directors? Do I have any questions or comments from members of the public?
I'm not seeing any, Director Huang.
Neither am I. All right, then do I have a motion from the directors?
I'll make a motion to move staff recommendation.
Thank you, Director Akbari. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Director Sethi. Roll call, please.
Directors Akbari,
Aye.
Gunther, Sethi,
Aye.
Weed,
Aye.
and Huang.
Aye. Ms. Marcoux, can you please call Director Gunther back? Thank you. And Mr. Shaver, I did move the consent calendar, right? Now I'm wondering. I think I did.
I believe you did.
I thought I did.
We can check with District Council.
Yes, I believe you did, and it was approved as amended.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Gina, I got that right, correct?
She's busy.
I remember seconding it, so
It was moved and approved.
Thank you. Getting old. Well, guess we're still waiting for Director Gunther. So we'll wait another couple minutes for Director Gunther. If we still can't find him, then we will start the meeting again onto item 5.7. Since we do have a little bit of constraint tonight, I want to make sure that we could get through everything.
I just received a message from Gina, and she is having trouble connecting with Director Gunther.
Okay.
I will send him a text as well.
When we get restarted, President Wong, I have a few questions.
Regarding,
Item
Is it-
5.7.
okay, well, we have to start with, I believe there's a staff presentation, correct, Mr. Shaver?
This is Ed. There's no separate presentation, slide deck, or anything like that, but I'd be happy to address any questions.
Okay.
Yeah, I have some very quick questions.
Okay, I will keep that in mind.
I'm sorry, I was texting.
What? You cannot triple processing at the same time? I am disappointed.
There are limits.
All right, I say we move on. Apologies to Director Gunther. Hopefully he will come back to join us soon. General Manager, please proceed with item 5.7.
Certainly. So item 5.7 involves a resolution awarding construction contract for Maine Renewal at the Sousa Avenue and Concord Street project. And our Manager of Engineering and Technology Services, Ed Stevenson, will cover this item.
Thank you, Mr. Shaver, and good evening, board and public. The Maine Renewal Sousa Avenue and Concord Street project includes the replacement of approximately 5,100 feet of water mains on Sousa Avenue, Concord Street, and other nearby side streets in Newark. The water mains to be replaced are comprised primarily of small diameter asbestos cement pipelines installed between 1955 and 1960. The existing mains will be replaced with new pipes that meet current district standards. 7 bids to perform the work were recently received, opened, and evaluated. The low bid contained 3 minor irregularities which may be waived. There's adequate funding in the capital improvement program for this expenditure. The project, which is part of the district's water main renewal program, was most recently reviewed with the Engineering and Information Technology Committee on January 15, 2020. This project will help meet the district's strategic plan goal 1.1, efficiently manage and maintain our infrastructure to ensure reliability. So pretty happy to bring this item to the board tonight. It's the next significant project in our main renewal program. This is the first of our small diameter main renewals that we're doing. And as the board might remember, this project was previously bid in December. And unfortunately, we had to reject all of the bids. There were 3 bids received. We rejected them all as non-responsive. So the project was rebid and in March, and we got 7 bids this time around, and even much better bids than what we had previously. So staff's recommendation is by motion: 1, waive the minor irregularities in the A. Teichert and Son Incorporated doing business as Teichert Construction bid, and 2, adopt a resolution awarding the contract for the Maine Renewal Sousa Avenue Concord Street project in the amount of $3,213,124, job 21191. And again, I'll be happy to address any questions.
Do I have any questions or comments from the director? I believe Director Sethi has questions.
I have a few quick questions. So Ed, under the discussion, it said that there were 3 minor irregularities. One was the preliminary construction schedule was missing. What is the construction schedule as it stands right now?
So the preliminary construction schedule is just part of the bid package, and it's where the contractor identifies their initial plan in terms of executing the project. They're required to submit their sort of formal construction schedule as part of one of the early submittals in construction. So generally, the construction, we expect it to start up within the next couple of months. There are a number of submittals and everything that have to happen before the construction can start. And then we hope to have the project complete by early next year.
So the entire 3.2 million approximately will be spent this coming fiscal year.
Correct.
Is there any additional contract engineering that's required outside of the district in order for the contractor to proceed ahead with work?
There's no additional engineering required. The engineering has been completed under a different contract and through work by staff. The majority of the permitting is done. There's a final permit that's required from the city of Newark that doesn't require engineering services. So really there's no other engineering involved other than just staff's own project engineers who are managing the construction.
Mm-hmm. The third thing is more of a comment. You know, there's an elementary school right around there, and I'm hopeful that we will take all precautions while we're doing work, especially when there's children around. It's in a neighborhood, you know, and that we're not disruptive to traffic. But we have to be really cautious about, you know, people in the area, in the neighborhood.
Correct, agreed. And that's why that last part of the city of Newark permit is important, because that includes the requirements having to do with traffic controls and pedestrian safety and so forth. And so, yes, the contractor will be required to abide by those permit conditions. And certainly, the project doesn't involve work immediately adjacent to the school, but certainly in the vicinity. So we are going to be careful about that.
Yeah. And lastly, it's not often we get to do business with a company that is older than the water district, 133 years old. That's almost going back to the gold rush. My goodness.
It's interesting. Their state license, their contractor's license number is 8.
Oh, wow. I'll have to go to their website to see the history of this company.
They actually have a very interesting history on their website. It's pretty comprehensive. I think you'll probably get a kick out of it.
Okay, I'll definitely go check it out. All right, that's it for me.
Thank you, Director Sethi. Do I have questions or comments from other directors? None? Do I have? Oh, hold on, Director Akbari?
No, I said not from my end.
Okay. Director Wee?
Well, it's optimistic to think the schools might be open.
Thank you for that comment. All right. Hearing no other comments from directors, do I have questions or comments from members of the public? I notice we do have a few members of the public joining us. If you wish to make a comment to the board, please unmute your microphone, or you could raise your hand as part of the Zoom participant thing.
Just for the record, I'm back.
Thank you, Director Gunther. Just in time for the roll call to vote on the item. All right. Hearing no comments from members of the public, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to move staff recommendation.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
May I request which item this was? I have read the item before.
5.7, please.
Very good. I'm ready to vote on 5.7.
All right. Roll call, please.
Directors Akbari,
Aye.
Gunther,
Aye.
Sethi,
Aye.
Weed,
Aye.
and Huang.
Aye. Item 5.8.
Yes, 5.8 involves the authorization of amendment to professional services agreement for engineering and environmental services for the Vallecillos Channel interim conveyance measures. And once again, Mr. Stevenson will kick us off on this item.
Thank you. And for this one, we do have a short presentation plan, but I'll read the summary while that's being pulled up. The Vallecillos Channel is an important component of the district's water supply conveyance facilities. However, the channel capacity has decreased over time due to bank erosion, sediment deposition, and vegetation growth. The evaluation of alternatives for restoring needed water conveyance is nearing completion, and staff plans to present a recommendation to the board at an upcoming board meeting. However, interim measures are required this summer to facilitate needed water supply operations. Engineering and environmental services are required to support the permitting and construction of these interim measures. There's adequate funding in the current fiscal year budget for this expenditure. Board authorization of this amendment will help meet numerous districts' strategic plan goals, including 2.1, maintain and enhance sustainability and reliability of local and regional water supplies, and 2.2, protect existing imported water supplies. My apologies because my lights just went off. It's a little harder to see. So the reason we would bring this item to the board with a short presentation tonight is because although staff have been working in the background on issues related to Vallecillos Channel for some time, the board really hasn't seen much on this important project for a while. So there's important work upcoming, and so staff felt it appropriate to bring to the board this update to address the near-term work that's needed, and to also provide the board a little bit more information about what's to come. So I'm really pleased to present tonight, introduce Carlos Semperi, who's a structural engineer in our capital projects division, and Carrie Smith, who's a civil engineer in our capital projects division. And Carrie and Carlos have been working collaboratively on the project of late, and have worked collaboratively to prepare a short presentation for you to bring the board up to speed. So with that, I'll turn it over to Carlos.
Thank you, Ed. Good evening to directors, staff, and members of the public present. My name is Carrie Smith. I'm co-presenting tonight with Carlos Semperi. We are both project engineers at the district, and we'll be talking to you about the Vallecillos Channel interim conveyance measures.
All right, thanks, Carrie. It's good to see everyone here. Give me just a moment. Let me try to figure out how this interface works. Okay, no, I don't know how to click. Okay. All right, so to give a refresher, Vallecillos Channel was built in the 1960s to bring raw water from the South Bay Aqueduct to our groundwater recharge facilities. After the Vallecillos turnout on the aqueduct, the water enters an underground pipeline in green that goes through some private pasture land and then emerges into an open, unlined channel roughly 2 miles long. That's the portion shown in red, and that's the topic of discussion today. After the channel, it drops under 680, and the water eventually makes its way into Alameda Creek. We use the channel during dry years, about 1 in 3 years on average. On such a year, we'll typically run it at 30 to 40 CFS, cubic feet per second, for maybe 4 months in the year. And that gets us a total of up to 10,000 acre-feet of water. And again, it goes into quarry lakes and into the groundwater basin for pumping later. The alternative to getting water through Vallecillos is to purchase additional water from SFPUC. And during a dry year, that can cost us a few $1 million. DWR also uses the blow-off capacity, also uses the channel for blow-off capacity on the aqueduct, which means they have an interest in what we do with the channel as well. Their blow-offs aren't tied to dry years like ours are. It's more related to when they fill Lake Del Valle. So it can happen at any time. And these blow-offs are short duration, but higher in flow, up to 120 CFS. And so that's what the channel was originally designed to carry. All right, I'm trying to, there we go. Okay, so being unlined, the channel is subject to erosion and water path disruption because of the growth of vegetation in the channel, namely reeds. We started to address some of this in 2014 with the construction of a willow wall to stabilize the banks at a particular trouble spot. But we have found it a little bit challenging to get the required permits to do more extensive work. So in 2015, we engaged Horizon to help us find a long-term solution. They've developed alternatives and taken their designs far enough for us to evaluate them. And in that process, we've had discussions with DWR, the other South Bay contractors, and the neighboring landowners. That process is nearing completion, and we'll have more to report on that front next month. Sorry, trying to change page. Oh boy. Okay, now, Gina, if you're on, I think I need a little help. All right, let's go to the next page, please. Thank you. All right, so unfortunately, the existing issues were worsened by the winter 2017 storms. The channel's capacity was reduced even further, down to a minimum of about 15 CFS at one particular trouble spot downstream. And that's resulted in 2 cases of flooding at one neighbor's property. Just a moment. The erosion has also eaten into our access road in a few locations. Oh, sorry, un momento. So most of the channel is currently not accessible by truck, and that limits our ability to do maintenance work. All right, try to get to the next page. Gina, take us to page 4, please. Thank you. All right, Carrie, take it from here.
I was muted. While we continue to develop the long-term solution for Vallecillos Channel, additional capacity is needed now, as it has been a dry winter and the restricted capacity is insufficient. Horizon has proposed 2 interim restoration measures, both of which can be implemented relatively quickly and with minimal environmental permitting. An earthen berm will be constructed where the channel has been most constricted in order to protect a neighboring property from flooding that can occur at lows even as low as 15 CFS. We will also trim some of the overgrown management in the channel to increase the near-term capacity above 15 CFS. In order to complete these interim restoration measures, we do need additional support from Horizon. They will perform biological surveys, which is important in this area as there is habitat for listed species. They will also perform an assessment to help us determine in which areas it will be most effective to trim the vegetation to increase the channel capacity. They will provide support for permitting, CEQA, environmental compliance, bidding, and construction. This will include biological monitoring during construction, the focus of which will be the tricolored blackbird, which is shown in the photo on this slide. The tricolor blackbird has been identified on site and could potentially be nesting in the vegetation we would want to trim. The total cost for these services is approximately $78,000. Moving forward, we will complete the full channel conveyance alternatives analysis and expect to present these findings at the June board meeting. At upcoming board meetings, we will bring to you an amendment to the agreement with Horizon to support us in the long-term solution, as well as CEQA and a construction contract for the interim measures. Once the appropriate alternative is selected, we'll move forward with design and expect to construct in summer 2021. Currently, in order to implement the 2020 interim measures, our recommendation is, by motion, authorize the general manager to execute an amendment to the professional services agreement with Horizon Water and Environment in an amount not to exceed $78,007 for engineering and environmental services for interim measures for the Vallecillos Channel Restoration Project. Thank you, and with that, we can take any questions.
All right, first of all, thank you, Carlos and Carrie, for your presentation. And I see we have a new member of the public that decided to join the meeting. Thank you. We welcome any members of the public, no matter the age. And with that, do I have any questions from the directors?
John Weed, if I might.
Yes, please.
When was the last time we used the Vallecillos channel for a release?
We're actually using it this year.
We are, or?
We are, but at a reduced capacity. So we do have water flowing at 15 CFS.
Okay, but it'd been a while since we had used it prior to that, was it not?
So this is Ed, and I think maybe Laura could add more detail, but we have used it particularly recently. You know, we had a relatively dry winter, rainy season this year. And what we have found is that we can only use it basically at a trickle. And so we try and run it at a constant rate at a trickle when we can. The condition of the channel is such that we can't really run it in the way that we have historically. And so we try and opportunistically run it. So, but Laura may have additional detail about specifically when we've run it.
Thanks, Ed. I don't have all the data in front of me of which months and whatnot, but we have been running it at a low level, as Ed mentioned, this year in the dry year.
Then, so DWR has not, if it can only be used as a low level, DWR then has not been able to use it recently in any case. The next question, we had a proposal a few years back to repair 200 feet of dirt road, and the environmental groups came in and were requiring extraordinary fees for projects that were not at this site, but around the Bay Area. And it was running into the hundreds of thousands of dollars for environmental impact to be done elsewhere. Do we still have to face that challenge of what is going to be required for mitigation offset?
So we will. I think after that case a few years ago, that's when we settled on the Willow Wall project, which was small enough to get us out of those requirements. Right now, Horizon is looking at what we can do, regardless of which alternative we pick, or depending on which alternative we pick. They are looking for simpler solutions that might involve banks or on-site mitigation. They are going to try to minimize what we have to do.
But we don't know what the mitigation costs might be, demands might be. That'd be over and above this contract. I understand we also, as I recall, looked at putting in a pipe so we could get out of an open channel, realizing the extraordinary extortion costs that can take place anytime you're working in an open, environmentally sensitive environment. Where do we stand on the alternative to build a pipeline to transfer this water from the takeoff to the creek?
So that's one of the leading alternatives, and we will have an answer for that next month.
Okay, and that would also then be covered by this contract? If we went that way, or would that, this contract?
Sorry, this amendment is smaller than that. This doesn't address the long-term solution. This would only address immediate improvements to let us get a little more water before we do something bigger.
Okay, and finally, I'd note that when we did the extension of the state water contract, I felt that we missed an opportunity to hand the Vallecito's channel to the DWR for responsibilities, rather than our having to pick up these costs and vulnerabilities for costs. So, thank you.
Thank you, Director Weed. Comment noted. Do I have any other comments, questions from directors?
Yes, I do.
Sati?
So just to clarify or expand upon Director Weed's question, is it our intent to put in a pipeline long-term? Is that the direction that we're going?
So this is Ed again. I just wanted to let you know, we'll be back in we're planning on June to provide a much more comprehensive review of those alternatives. As Carlos pointed out, the pipeline alternative rose to the top as looking pretty good. But I will say that that restoration of the channel itself is likely to be staff's recommendation. But I will say too that the mitigations that are going to be involved in either approach are likely to be significant. And our alternatives evaluation has factored in what we expect to be the cost, not just the near-term project costs, but the life cycle costs, including mitigations and permitting requirements for both the near-term project and also long-term maintenance for actually several alternatives, not just those two. So, so yes, mitigation is going to be costly. And the pipeline alternative was evaluated carefully. And again, we'll provide more detail about that at an upcoming meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. So what I heard is that's focused this month on the short-term fix, immediate fix that we need. And next month we could have an in-depth discussion on the long-term fix for Vallecito's channel. So with that understanding, do I have any other comments or questions from directors?
Like one other comment, that anytime you can get out of an open channel, you're way ahead of the game. And that's why looking at the Niles Canyon Aqueduct owned by San Francisco PUC was an interesting alternative with a different takeoff that would get us out of this.
We will have that discussion some other time, but on the short-term fix, do I have any other comments from the directors? If not, I'm going to open the floor up to our members of the public. Hearing no more comments from the directors, do I have any members of the public that wish to address the board on this item? If you do, please unmute your mic and speak up. Ms. Marcoux, I'm not seeing anybody raising their hand through Zoom either. Can you please confirm?
That's correct, Director Wong.
All right, with that, then do I have a motion from the directors on item 5.8?
I'll move item 5.8.
Second,
I'll second.
roll call, please.
Directors Akbari,
Aye.
Gunther,
Aye.
Sethi,
Aye.
Weed,
Aye.
and Huang.
Aye. Moving on to item 5.9.
Thank you, President Wong. 5.9 involves the resolution declaring the month of May as Water Awareness Month. And our Public Affairs Supervisor, Shireen Gonzalez, will guide us through this.
Thank you, Mr. Shaver. Good evening, members of the board, staff, and public. I can't believe it's already May, and once again, we celebrate Water Awareness Month. I present to you item 5.9, resolution declaring the month of May as Water Awareness Month. May is designated as Water Awareness Month in California. In the past, the district has promoted Water Awareness Month, which focuses on educating Californians about the importance in all facets of their lives by encouraging the involvement in water awareness activities on a local, regional, and statewide level. This month, the district has several items planned to promote Water Awareness Month, and these are just some of the highlights. We will publicize our ACWD Water There When You Need It video and our annual water quality report, which was published on May 1st. And with the shelter-in-place order in effect, we will host our first ever Zoom webinar format landscape workshop. And I'm pleased to report that we have over 100 people registered for this workshop. And toward the end of the month, we'll acknowledge businesses and organizations that have demonstrated water use efficiency. Lastly, this evening, we will highlight the Alameda County Science and Engineering Fair's Special Water Research Award recipients within our service area. And with that, I would like to introduce Renee Gonzalez, Public Affairs Specialist, who will share more about our science fair winners. Renee?
Hi, everyone. Good evening, board, ACWD staff, and the Alameda County Science and Engineering Fair Award recipients, their families, and teachers all present tonight. Tonight, we not only recognize May as Water Awareness Month, but it's a privilege to honor the recipients of the Excellence in Water Research Awards. And each year, ACWD and 9 other water and wastewater agencies in the county co-sponsor the Alameda County Science and Engineering Fair. This year's fair took place on Saturday, March 7th at Chabot College in Hayward, and the award ceremony was held the next day on Sunday, March 8th. And we're proud to have 3 winners from our service area that won awards for their excellence in water research projects. The award winners placed second in the senior division and first and second in the junior division. And we're fortunate to have so much talent right here from Fremont and Newark. And normally we would have our board of directors present the winners with their awards. But in complying with the shelter-in-place order, we are not presenting the awards in person, and instead, each of the winners were mailed their certificates, checks, and an optional lawn sign. However, it is a pleasure to recognize the following outstanding students for their hard work and innovative projects at this board meeting. So this year, the second place winner from the senior division is Rakshan Patnaik with a project titled Nature's Purest, Making Water Filters with Nature's Materials. And this student received a check for $300. The student's teacher is Tommy Ibanez, and he was also awarded with a check for $100. He is from American High School. Next, the first place winner in the junior division from Challenger School in Fremont with a project titled Water Purification is Vian Dapke. This student received a check for $400, and their teacher's name is Vimala Sampath, and this teacher was given a check for $100. The second place winner in the junior division from Challenger School in Fremont with a project titled Water Purity of Different Bottles in a Car Exposed to the Sun is Leanne Elsa Linton. So Leanne sent us a picture of herself posing with her award and check and her lawn sign. And Leanne also shared with us an overview of her award-winning project. The objective of Leanne's project was to identify the effect of a single-use disposable plastic water bottle, a hard plastic water bottle, and a stainless steel water bottle versus a glass water bottle on the purity of distilled water in a car. So it was hypothesized that out of all the water bottles used, the single-use disposable plastic water bottle would be the least pure and the glass water bottle the purest. And as expected, the single-use plastic water bottle had the worst purity. The glass water performed better. And because of its plastic content, the single-use plastic and hard plastic bottles released the most chemicals. The stainless steel bottle leached chemicals such as chromium and lead, while the glass bottle was the purest. So Leanne received a check for $300 along with her award and her beautiful lawn sign to let all of her neighbors know about her significant scientific achievement. And her teacher was also Vimala Sampath, and that teacher received a $100 check. So I think it's fair to say that we have some really impressive talent from our local students. And here at ACWD, we'd like to think it's something in the water. So who knows, maybe someday these students who have demonstrated their passion for water will pursue careers in the water industry. So thank you. And now I'll turn it back over to Shireen.
Thank you so much, Renee.
Can I make a comment real quick from Director Sethi?
Mm-hmm.
So I have a very sensitive palate to the taste of different water bottles. And I actually, especially if water's stored in for hours, and I don't like the plastic ones or the steel ones or aluminum ones that have a lining inside. The lining seems to give off a flavor. Shireen gave me a couple of glass water bottles, and I have a couple of others here in my office home. And they have a padding around the bottle in case you drop it or something. But those are my preferred bottles for drinking. I keep one aluminum one simply because of the convenience of the lid when I'm driving. I can pop it open and drink it easily and then close it, snap it back shut. But yeah, I actually taste the difference, and I like the glass one. So I'm really happy to see that somebody actually did some research on this. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Director Sethi.
Yeah.
Ms. Gonzalez?
And
sorry.
Shireen. You have two of us.
Yeah, two of you.
Hello. Yeah.
So I believe we interrupted you when you were going to continue on your presentation.
I apologize. Just staff recommendation by motion, adopt a resolution declaring the month of May as Water Awareness Month.
Thank you. Do I have any other questions or comments from the directors?
I'll just make a quick comment. I said this, can't remember if it was last year or year before, but it's really exciting to see these students doing research on water and being recognized for it. And hopefully one day there'll be staff and board members here at ACWD.
Thank you. Any other comments from directors? If not, well, I have a short spiel.
Careful what you wish for, Aziz. You might have a challenger this fall.
I welcome it.
You know, this is usually the best board meeting for me every year. Due to the new format we have because of COVID-19, I really am missing reading about all the presentations and all the projects. And I will also admit, this is also the board meeting every year that I feel downright inferior. It is pretty amazing the amount of talent we have in this district. So hopefully next year we get to see them in person and actually get to go through some of their projects. They're actually really, really impressive. So with that, do I have any questions or comments from members of the public? I am not seeing any. And for one of the Ms. Gonzalez, do we have any recipients on the Zoom meeting and would they wish to speak to us?
I don't know that we've confirmed. I know we have some members of the public, but I don't know that we've confirmed if any of them are the participants. I don't believe so.
All right.
But I don't know for certain.
Okay, then one last round. If you are a participant in this project or you're a recipient of any awards and wish to address the board, please unmute your microphone and talk to us. All right, hearing none, then the next question is, do I have a motion from the board?
I'll make the motion to move staff recommendation.
I'll go ahead and second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Directors Akbari,
Aye.
Gunther,
Aye.
Sethi,
Aye.
Weed,
Aye.
and Huang.
Aye. With that, I think we're moving on to item 6.1.
That was not me barking when I said aye.
Wasn't going to mention it. Let's move on to item 6.1, board committee reports. Do we have any Do I have any questions or comments from the directors on item 6.1? Any of the reports? Hearing none, do I have any questions or comments on any of the board committee reports from members of the public? I am not seeing any. Ms. Marcoux, would you verify that there are no raised hands?
Confirm no raised hands.
All right, so moving on to item 6.2, operational reports. Do I have any questions or comments from the director on any of the operational reports?
Water production.
Director Sethi?
3 months in a row, we're running ahead of our projections. So that's good. We're still in the lower to mid 30 MGD, but for 3 months in a row, we're ahead of projection, and that's kind of nice, especially when we've had a relatively cool spring.
Director Gunther's got one on hardness, of course, and I think we're looking at, I don't think we've got one over 155 this month. So nice job to the staff.
Any other questions or comments from the directors? Hearing none, do I have any questions or comments from our committee member on the operational reports?
Ken Nishimura, doing business as irate payer.
Yes, Mr. Nishimura.
Yes, I would like to second Director Gunther's comments about the good work on water hardness. It's always nice to see that number trend lower. As we all know, water hardness is a water quality issue, and it does cost our ratepayers money in both maintenance, and also it is a water conservation item because the lower the hardness, the less likely it is that public will install water softeners, which we all know are not very efficient use of water. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Do I have any other members of the public wish to address the board at this time?
I just want to say something real quick. I'm kind of joking here, but Ken, I thought you were an irate payer.
Kudos to Director Sethi. He gets my joke.
On that really happy note, do I have any other members of the public that wish to address the board? I am not seeing any on my Zoom participant list. Ms. Marcoux, can you confirm?
That's correct.
All right, then with that, let's move on to item 6.3, staff presentation. 6.3.1 is fiscal year 2018-19 benchmark metrics comparison.
Thank you, Madam President. And this will be, I believe, the second year that our manager of finance, Jonathan Wunderlich, will be making this presentation to the board on benchmarking. That was a board request. So I pass this over to Jonathan, who will guide you through this.
All right, thank you, Mr. Shaver. This is indeed the second year with this presentation. It is very similar to last year's presentation. It's the same metrics, and most of the metrics have not changed substantially in terms of ACWD's performance, both in terms of our performance and our performance relative to the other agencies. So my plan for this evening is to move through the presentation relatively quickly and just focus on the couple of slides and couple of metrics that I think will be particularly relevant to upcoming board deliberations. Okay. So we will just briefly review the metrics and the comparisons and a few conclusions. But as a reminder, the comparator agencies are Contra Costa Water District, Dublin San Ramon Services District, East Bay Mud, Marin Municipal Water District, San Francisco PUC, and San Jose Water Company. And these are the same agencies we compared against last year. They are not identified throughout the presentation. They are simply identified as agencies, A through E or F. All right. And again, this data is taken from each agency's financial report. We do not submit surveys. And so, there is a certain amount of interpretation, and I'm sure the financial manager at these agencies, if they were to do the same exercise, might put things together slightly differently. We categorize our benchmarks into 3 general categories: operational efficiency, financial capacity, and rate impact. And where I'll be focusing a lot of my comments this evening is really in the financial capacity area. All right, so the first metric is the cost of water in dollars per million gallons. ACWD is the median agency, and I believe we were the median agency last year as well. Connections per employee, as well as operating revenue per employee, we are somewhat above the median. And then in operating costs per connection, somewhat below the median. And so that's the side of the median you want to be on so far in these metrics. All right, so this is the first one I really want to talk about for a little bit. Similar to last year, we have really by a fairly decent margin the highest debt coverage ratio. And essentially what that means is that we have significant capacity, should we choose to use it, to issue debt to finance our capital program, which gives us a lot of flexibility in our financial planning. Board policy is to maintain at least a 2.0 debt coverage ratio, and our bond covenants typically require a ratio of 1.25. So we are well above not just the bond covenant requirements, but also board policy.
Jonathan, I have a question.
Yep.
So it was my understanding that the 2009 refunding bonds, the final payments are going to be made next month. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so where would you anticipate our debt coverage ratio would go up to after we clear those payments?
It's actually not going to go up too much because our 12 and 15 series of bonds are staggered so that those payments begin to go up a little bit starting next year, because when those bonds were issued, there was recognition of when the 09 bonds would be paid off.
What is the annual payment for the 2009 refunding bond?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. We will certainly have all of this covered in next week's budget workshop.
Yeah. Wasn't it around 1.25, 1.5 million or something?
I feel like it's a little bit more than that.
Okay.
But again, the 12 and 15 bond series will increase. Those payments will step up next year, and they will fill in some of the savings created by paying off the 09 bonds.
So our current debt service is about a little bit less than $6.4 million. Once the 2009 refunding bonds come off the books next month, would you anticipate that we're going to be making a higher payment than we are currently, or lower?
No, it will definitely go down. It will go down, but I think it will only go down by, a percentage of what we're paying for the 09 bonds.
Okay.
And certainly our financial plan includes some debt to support the AMI project. And so that will come into play as well, and will probably keep our debt service relatively level with those additional costs.
Are you talking about the state revolving fund?
Yes. That's where we've been focusing our efforts, although, and we have submitted an application, but it's certainly not a completed deal yet.
So I was sitting in a CSDA seminar last week, I think it was, and it was called Budgeting for the COVID-19 Recession. And during that discussion, they were saying that the state revolving funds could be at risk right now, where the state is not able to match the funding on the application. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that it's not a sure thing. It's our primary focus, but we know it's not a sure thing. And there are several backup alternatives that could be pursued if it becomes necessary. Okay. And of course, the big reason why our debt coverage ratio is so high is because we primarily fund our capital program on a Pago basis, right, rather than regularly issuing debt. And when it comes to rate increases, one of the things that's become apparent in some of our recent discussions with agencies throughout the state is that a lot of agencies are driven in their rates processes by their debt coverage ratio requirements, that they have to meet their bond covenants. And so we also have the flexibility that we're not driven by that requirement. All right, the next metric, our pension and OPEB liability. We are slightly above the median here, but I will cover in a minute that we actually have made significant progress on this metric. This is the one that this might very well be my favorite metric of all of them, our total liabilities divided by operating revenue. And it gives us a really good sense of our debt burden, whether that's our pension or retiree healthcare liabilities, long-term bonded debt, any long-term liability and how that compares to our capacity to pay for those liabilities. And you can see in this one, we're well below the median. And really just with one agency that's has a lower ratio than us. We are 47 cents above the median monthly bill. And so we're pretty much right there at the median. And that's based on 8 units of consumption per month. And then the last one, when you look at those operating revenues relative to our liabilities and our debt coverage ratio, it makes sense then that we're able to maintain a rate increase below what most agencies were able to do during the 18-19 fiscal year. So some of the variances from last year's benchmarking that I wanted to point out. First is that we made pretty significant progress during the year, and this is really reflective of the advanced funding efforts we're putting in, and that our liability to payroll ratio went down from 4.49 to 3.15, while during the same year, the median comparator agency didn't really change too much. And then again, in looking at the rate increases, our typical bill did go up by $2.41 as a result of the 4% rate increase, but the median bill went up by $6.25. And so even though we did go up a little bit, we substantially closed the gap compared to the median agency. And because of our financial capacity, I would expect that in the coming years, we would see that the median agency would continue to grow faster than us on their typical bill. And so, the main reason, of course, I want to highlight this financial capacity is that, we will be presenting a range of scenarios to the board next week in the budget workshop. And there are a variety of ways we could use that financial capacity. We certainly have a closed session item this evening that will talk about one of those ways with the ranch. You know, a lot of the agencies that we've been talking to are considering lower rate increases or even foregoing rate increases. Or, you know, we may determine that the most prudent course is to simply to hold on to that capacity in case we experience some revenue impacts from the economic effects of the pandemic. And so there are a lot of things for us to think about, but we're in the fortunate position of having that capacity available to us. And that pretty much concludes my presentation. I pretty much covered the conclusion items in that summary. And so with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions or comments from the directors?
Jonathan, could you send out the PDF for this as a file that we can?
I will absolutely do that. And for the members of the public listening in, this file is available right now on the district's website.
Thank you, Jonathan. So
is this your appeal for a pay raise here? With all the good performance?
You know, it's nice as the finance manager to be the bearer of good news every once in a while.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from Director?
I have a question. Do we have a metric on how just our specific fixed charge compares with the other agencies?
You know, we did present on that during our last rates process. We did not update that as part of this benchmarking. We just looked at the total rate, but I can send some information on that out to the board as well.
Great, thank you.
Well, it would be about $26.50 a month. According to my bill, just look at your own bill, Aziz. Look at your own water bill.
Yeah.
I think the ask is to benchmark.
My question was how it compares to the other agencies that we're comparing against here.
Yeah.
And I believe Mr. Wunderlich will be providing the information to the directors.
Yeah, in fact, we did prepare some information for the Finance Committee a number of months ago. I believe it may have predated Director Akbari's coming on to the committee. And so it actually included fixed and variable charges for the whole 30 agencies we typically compare against. So I think I may have something there I can send out pretty shortly.
That would be great.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions from directors? Hearing none, do I have any questions or comments from members of the public?
And Nishimura, doing business as irate pair. This is just a quick editorial comment.
Nishimura, please identify your address, if you would, please.
Yes, my residence address is 5351 Diana Common in Fremont.
Thank you.
Just a quick editorial comment is on your metric of the cost of producing water. You use the units of dollars per million gallons. That's an interesting unit. That's fine, except for the fact that most ratepayers are charged in dollars per unit, and that is the metric by which most people who've watched the water district operations are coached or trained to view the cost of water either in dollars per acre foot or dollars per unit, which is the metric, the units by which we are charged. So it'd be useful to annotate that metric in the units in which most ratepayers are accustomed to seeing. If I interpreted the graph correctly, $10,000 per million gallons, I think works out to $7.48 per unit. Thank you.
I have a follow-up question for my fellow board member, Aziz. When you're asking about our comparison on the fixed rate charge, why are you asking that question? What's the motivation behind the question?
I I would suggest you take this offline. Directors have the right to make any requests and comments.
I'm just trying to understand here. So what is the reasoning behind asking the question? What are you looking for?
Well,
if we were the highest agency on the fixed charge, how would that affect your feelings?
Well, I was making the request more because we're going into a financial workshop next week, and so it's helpful to have that information.
But does it matter to you whether we're high, low, median?
I would certainly say so. I think that matters to each of our ratepayers, how we compare.
So if we're the highest, what would be your feeling about that?
I think there's a lot more factors that play into that. So I'm not going to make a judgment just based on one metric.
Okay, I was just trying to figure out why you're asking the question.
All right, so do we have any other members of the public that wish to address the board? Hearing none, and I am not seeing any on my Zoom panel, we should move on to General Manager's report. Item 6.4.1.
Thank you, Madam President. Item 6.4.1 is on the agenda because the term of the regular special district member on the Alameda Local Agency Formation Commission, or LAFCO, expires on May 6th. And as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, Alameda LAFCO has postponed the meeting of the Alameda County Independent Special District Selection Committee, which they refer to as the ISDSC, for Wednesday, July 13th at 10 a.m., which is right after the regular Alameda County Special District Association meeting. Candidate nominations for this open position are due Friday, June 19th, and Ralph Johnson from the Castro Valley Sanitary District Board of Directors is the incumbent. Mr. Johnson has indicated that he plans to seek renomination. So the purpose of the ISDSC is to select special district members to LAFCO, and the ISDSC consists of the presiding officers of the legislative bodies of each independent special district in Alameda County. In our case, that's you, President Wong. So, however, President Wong may appoint another ACWD director, this is pursuant to our own board rules, to attend the meeting if she is unable to attend. So we have two issues for this evening. First, are there any ACWD directors interested in being nominated to serve on LAFCO? And the reason why I'm asking this is because if so, staff would put this item on the agenda at our own June 11th board meeting to meet the LAFCO deadline. And then also I'm required to inform the 14 other special district general managers if we're going to have a candidate. So that's item one. And then item two is based on a conversation that I had with President Wong, and this situation may change. She may not be available to attend the ISDSC meeting if it occurs, because if Mr. Johnson runs unopposed, they will likely cancel it. But it's good to be prepared. So if any directors are interested in serving on the ISDSC in the event President Wong is unable to do so, then I also need to let LAFCO know who the proxy would be by June 19th as well. So 2 questions. Anybody interested in running, please, it would be good for me to know now, but obviously we have until the June 11th board meeting if we need to meet the deadline, because the ACWD board would have to adopt a resolution. And then President Wong, I think, would be interested if any of you are interested in serving on the ISDSC in the event she cannot serve in that role.
So I'll open this up to the board. Do we have any directors that is interested in running?
No, I'm happy with Ralph, and I'm happy with Georgine as the alternate. Director Weed, you and I usually go to these meetings, so what's your thought?
Same. you don't, it makes little sense to go against an incumbent in this group. And I would also suggest that for the vice president of the board would be the default member to take on the opening or position that the president of the board is assigned to. And that would be then to the decision of the vice president of the board, whether you wish to step into this position or not. If not, then step it down the roster.
That's logical. Thank you. Director Gunther, Director Akbari, are you interested in running?
Not on my end.
No.
All right. So no one's interested. And with Director Akbari, would you serve as my alternate?
I'd be happy to.
Thank you. So with that, Mr. Shaver, I think you have the answer you need.
I have the information that I need. Thank you very much.
All right, 6.4.2, please.
I just wanted to say that John and I usually attend those Alameda County Special District Association meetings.
Right. So I think what you're saying, Director Sethi, is that if for some reason Director Akbari cannot attend, we have directors that are willing and capable of stepping up to fill in that role.
That's correct.
All right. Perfect.
We're usually there.
Yes. So thank you very much. So the next item on the agenda was I wanted to provide a relatively brief update on the COVID-19 pandemic. Just have a few slides to share, mostly emphasizing what has happened since the April board meeting when you received the last update. So if I can have control of this, Gina. Okay, it says I'm controlling Gina's screen, but nothing's happening. Okay, I'm assuming that I did that. So the items that I wanted to cover this evening very quickly is just review our objectives again, just to remind the directors, and talk a little bit about our operating environment since the April board meeting and what our status is currently, and a little bit about some recent actions that we've taken as staff. So our objectives are threefold. Firstly, we want to keep our employees safe, as well as the public. Secondly, continue providing the essential services that we do while prioritizing the most critical services in the event of limitations on resources. And then lastly, and this is where the board was extremely helpful, support ACWD employees and their families that may experience health-related and childcare challenges as a result of the pandemic. And we have been meeting those objectives. So since April 14th, I wanted to let you know that we are still operating in an emergency status. We have our virtual emergency operations center, which remains activated, but we have increased the operating periods. We're sort of kind of entering in a little bit of more routine situation, but that can change at any time. We understand that. And so our EOC meetings are occurring on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at 8 a.m. And that's where the whole team is present and shares information and develops the plan for the next 48 or over the weekend operating period. A little bit of grim statistics on the pandemic. We're certainly not out of the woods. The cases, both in the county and in the state, have increased significantly over the past month, as well as, sadly, the death count as well. In terms of testing for COVID-19, it's voluntary for ACWD employees, and to date, 6 employees have been tested. All results have been negative. Staff is tracking antibody testing so that we can make that available as well. And we'll consider doing so when testing is available, accurate, and approved in our area. We've really focused a lot on enhanced communications, both internally to the organization, as well as externally to our customers. And you've heard from Renee and Shireen Gonzalez, who've been spending a lot of time on social media and doing COVID-19 related outreach to the community, including a recent Trust Tap Water message that I think was very effective. And Shireen gets the credit for spearheading a partnership of all the Bay Area agencies to do that. And I think that was a great message.
A comment, if I might, on COVID-19 testing. My understanding is that a number of the essential public works organizations are providing 100% testing of their employees, are making it available. I'm concerned that we've only, since the disease is primarily carried by asymptomatic individuals, and it also impacts a life threat not only to the employee but their family members, that I would encourage us to consider more active testing and seek as a benchmark to test our employees who are coming to the building.
Mm-hmm. So we're already exceeding the recommendations of the CDC and the Alameda County Health Department based on our current situation. But we have been implementing new measures. Some of those you'll hear about this evening, and we are considering amping up things further. So thank you for your input.
Bob, this
yes,
is
sir.
So I just want to make the board aware of this. Sometimes board members actually do contribute some good ideas once in a while. So before we shut down the state, back in February, you might remember, Bob, I talked to you and sent you an email on trying, and copied Judy, that we would try to coordinate with all the water districts around the Bay Area with a unified message, not knowing where we actually would be down the road, but that we'd be prepared for that. So I'm really delighted to see all of this going on, because I was really concerned about everybody going out with their own independent messages, and to see that we're all unified together around the Bay Area. You know, I pitched the idea, and I'm glad that Shireen went off and running with it.
Yeah, of course. I should have mentioned that. Yeah, we as staff, you know, we as staff do not have a monopoly on good ideas. We're willing to take good ideas from wherever they come from. And so I was especially pleased that we were able to do that. And we are remaining in close coordination with the local agencies through BAWAC, as well as we're having basically weekly coordination meetings, not just at the top, but there are different committees operating under the CUA umbrella. So not only are we coordinating in the Bay Area, but also statewide among the major urban water purveyors. So many of the things that we've implemented, you know, we're comparing notes with our other agencies, and in some cases, they've copied some of the things that we've done. In some cases, we've avoided some of the things that they've done thoughtfully, and I think it's put us in a better position. For example, we have not sent a significant portion of our workforce home and paid them for admin leave. We have not paid any admin leave to date. So we're trying to maximize our productivity, but also minimize the risk. The major two orders since the last board meeting were the health officer order, which extended and revised the shelter in place. We've, as a result, that loosened some restrictions. Pretty much all construction can now proceed in Alameda County, which it was very much curtailed before this revised order, and implemented new protocol requirements, some of which impact our own crews, and we've implemented them. Specifically, we're following protocols of Appendix B1 of the order, if you'd like to read it. The other major order that I just wanted to put on your radar screen, and Director Weed also brought this up, is that the governor has created a time-limited rebuttable presumption for workers' compensation. So basically, if you are an employee that cannot work from home, and you are inflicted with COVID-19, if you've worked outside of the home within a 14-day period before being diagnosed, it is presumed that is a workplace related impact, and therefore really creates a high bar to not be awarded workers' comp insurance. And the long-term costs associated with that order are unknown at this time.
If I could just back up just a moment on an issue, separate issue, and that is how long the ban on outdoor activities will continue. We have the EA summer picnic, and I'd be interested in seeing if that's still on the books. And second, I'd note that in the Niles Main Street organization has been informed by the city of Fremont to not plan any activities, public activities, through the end of the year. That would include the after Thanksgiving parade that they have in Niles. So one local city government is at least has it on in their discussions and planning to shut it down for the year.
Yeah, I have not had a communication about the picnic with the Employees Association yet, but as soon as a decision is made, we'll certainly let the board know on that.
Thank you.
Some additional ACWD protocols that we have implemented since April. We now require employees to do self-assessment screening each day. There's a relatively simple questionnaire, and we have provided inexpensive forehead test strips that you can press to your forehead that provide a temperature reading. This is so that employees can check themselves. And if there's any question about the reading or a supervisor may want a second opinion, we do now have no-touch thermometers that are stored and accessible. And obviously, these protocols kind of relate to even if you've had a positive test. We have not. So we're ahead of the curve on some of these requirements, but that can change very quickly. In terms of previous protocols, we're continuing them: social distancing, mask, hygiene. Basically, if you're in our building now and not in an office that's enclosed completely, you're wearing a mask. We've also provided our employees with enough supplies for now that they can meet all the requirements. 87 employees are currently teleworking, last time I checked. And we've also, as I mentioned, targeted outreach to customers, and specifically the most recent outreach are to non-residential, commercial, industrial, institutional. And the reason why we're targeting these customers is because if they've been shut down for an extended period of time, there are water quality concerns, and we're coaching them on before you occupy the building, if you come back into business, we're giving them best practices in terms of making sure that they do proper flushing, and we're providing them guidance on those kind of issues. I'm really thrilled also that we have a new health and safety officer on board, replacing Katie Roberts, a gentleman named Justin Porter. He has a very broad background. He's a firefighter for 11 years, and his most recent experience was the construction inspector for safety at the Chase Center in San Francisco, a relatively big project. So he comes to us well prepared, and the timing is great to bring on somebody to help us make sure we're keeping our employees safe and following all the best management practices.
Bob, did Katie leave the district?
Yes, Katie accepted a position at Stanford Hospital.
I see. It's sorry. I feel sorry about losing a really good employee.
Yeah, from time to time, organizations like ours lose good employees, but I'm also thrilled to have Mr. Porter on board, and I think you'll all be able to meet him, and I think you'll be impressed.
Sounds good.
Yeah. In terms of our current operational status, we're not experiencing any major issues right now. As you mentioned, Director Sethi, water demand is not huge, but it is manageable. All of our production facilities are operational. We have no major issues with supply chains. And in terms of COVID-19 related logistics, the county has been very responsive and helpful. I've mentioned that we've not been paying employees for admin leave. Cross-training employees for critical operations duty. We're finishing up with our first team of 5 employees that are becoming operator lights, so to speak. And we're going to start the second class shortly. So that's been very helpful in case that classification gets impacted. It's been identified as one of the more essential of all of our essential employees. All of our employees are essential. We've stayed away from calling people essential or non-essential. In my view, we have like super essential and really essential. I think most employees would admit that somebody who's working in payroll might be very essential, right? They're not on the front lines, but they are definitely important. In terms of planning for the future, I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of our philosophy, because as the state and the localities begin opening up again and society starts sort of starting up, this doesn't necessarily mean that ACWD becomes fully open as well, because the risk to ACWD's operations and our employees actually increase as more activity occurs in society. So I've been informing employees that, yes, we're making plans on how to phase back into sort of a more normal situation, but we need to expect a lag behind because we need to make sure that we protect our ability to continue providing the service to the community that relies on us. So with that, we'll continue coordinating with others. We'll continue our increased communications. And my expectation is I'll provide you another brief update at the next regular board meeting. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to respond to any of those.
Do we have any questions or comments from the directors? None. Are there any members of the public that wish to address the board or have any questions for the board on this issue? Hearing none and seeing none on Zoom, let's move on to the next item then. Thank you, Mr. Shaver, for your report. Item 7 is director's comments, reports on meeting attended, and agenda item request. I would ask our directors to be short and concise today. We have a director has a hard stop at 9:30 today, and we do have 3 closed session items that we need to get through, and I would like all of us to be in the closed session. So concise and short would be appreciated. Let's go from Director Weed.
I did have one contact, which I shared with staff, on a company called AR Utility that has a fascinating piece of technology allowing you to tie in your GIS system with visual graphics. And I would encourage members to view that, that video if possible. It ties in well with the GIS system, and directors have these work there.
Thank you, Director Wee. Director Sethi?
I just want to report that I attended 3 online seminars last week that were all very interesting. The first one was the CSDA webinar that I mentioned, budgeting for the COVID-19 recession. Lots of good information in there, especially all of the challenges that special districts around the state are facing. There's a lot to learn from, all the challenges that people are going through. And I would say our district is much better off than most agencies right now. I think Director Weed was also in on the Water Now webinar on Wednesday, which was reviewing the municipal bond market in the United States for water districts specifically. and what's going on in municipal bonds and other financings right now. And lastly, I attended on Thursday the well-promoted Aqua webinar on some other additional financing stuff. So those are 3 really good ones for last week. Not much to do while you're sitting at home, but at least you can sit in these seminars and pick up information. But in all 3, what I was really gaining information on is just the immense problems that all of our special districts, and in particular cities, are now facing throughout the state of California.
Thank you, Director Sethi. Director Gunther?
No, nothing for tonight.
Director Wee, do you want to say something?
Oh, it was noted that I had attended several of the, viewed several of the other webinars as well. I'll give that list later. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Akbari?
Yeah, excuse me. I'll keep it pretty brief. On April 15th, I attended a call with Alameda County's Department of Public Health that they hosted for local elected officials to discuss updates on the COVID-19 pandemic. And I shared my notes with our general manager and board president on that. Then on April 17th, I attended the Aqua Business Development Committee meeting where the main topic of discussion was the upcoming conference, which I think, as we all know, has now been moved to a virtual conference. And then the final meeting was on May 6th, so just last week, which was another meeting with the Alameda County Department of Public Health, which was, again, an update for local elected officials on the pandemic. And with that, I shared my notes again with the board president and our general manager.
Thank you, Director Akbari, and nothing from me. So that ends item 7. Let's move to item 8. Mr. Shaver, would you do the honor and read the closed session items, please?
Certainly. So the board has 3 closed sessions this evening. The first one, item 8.1, which is pursuant to California Government Code section 54956.8, conference with real property negotiators. The property is the N3 Cattle Company, consisting of 131 parcels and approximately 50,535 acres in the counties of Alameda, Santa Clara, San Joaquin, and Stanislaus. Assessor parcel numbers were furnished by the owner's representative and are attached to the agenda. The agency negotiators are Robert Shaver and Ed Stevenson. The negotiating parties are the N3 Cattle Company, LLC, Wren Jr., and Wren Jr. Price and terms of payment are under negotiation. And then item 8.2 is pursuant to California Government Code section 54956.9 D2, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation, 1 potential case. And then item 8.3 is pursuant to California Government Code section 54957, public employee performance evaluation, titled General Manager.
All right, then with that, that's adjourned to the closed session. I guess you're going to put us into a separate breakout room then.
President Wong?
Yes.
May I request a short break at this point before we go into closed session?
Sure. Ms. Marcoux, can you put us in the breakout room and then we'll take 5 minutes. Let's come back here at 7:55.
Yeah, so what I would suggest is Gina will go ahead and put us in the room. And then once we're all ready to go, we'll begin conducting the closed session items.
Okay. All right.
So stand by while I invite you. You'll get an invite and you just have to accept and say join, and you'll be put into the room. Okay, 1 moment.
See you there.
So click on join breakout room, right?
Correct.
All right, looks like we're back on recording. I see you nod your head, Ms. Marcoux. Okay, the board is back from closed session. Can I ask District Counsel to report back?
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. It is now 9:28 and the board convened in closed session for multiple closed sessions, which I'll go into in this report. Met in closed session pursuant to for item 8.1, pursuant to California Government Code section 54956.8, conference with real property negotiators, the property N3 cattle company consisting of 131 parcels and approximately 50,535 acres in Alameda County, Santa Clara County, San Joaquin County, and Stanislaus County. Assessor's parcel numbers were furnished by the owner's representative and are attached to this agenda. The agency negotiators, Robert Shaver and Ed Stevenson. Negotiating parties, N3 Cattle Company, LLC, REN Jr. and REN Jr. I think it's supposed to be TR at the end of that. Yeah, there it is over there. Under negotiation, price in terms of payment, and in the closed session, direction was given to the real property negotiators. For item 8.2, pursuant to California Government Code section 54956.9 subsection D2, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation, one potential case. And in that closed session, no action was taken. And then the board did not go into closed session for item 8.3, and that is going to be deferred to a future meeting. And that concludes the reports.
Thank you. And because the board did not go into closed session for item 8.3, we'll also be postponing item 9.1 and items 10.1 till future meetings, and you'll be properly agendized again. So with that, I think that concludes our agenda, and I will call our meeting adjourned at 9:30 exactly.